here we go. Episode 7, the importance of routine. But I think Greg wants to share a few things before we start. Right?
Yes. Well, how are you doing today, Peter?
Just peaches and cream seeing you, buddy.
Yeah, same here. A lot of peaches, a lot of creams.
Shout out to all the support we've been given too. You guys is.
Yeah, a ton of people just shouting us out and hollering at us. It's very encouraging.
Very encouraging.
And it just makes me remember that I'm doing all this for a reason. And there's been a ton. I remember on I don't know if it was the last episode or 2 episodes ago when I was saying how I talked to Gerber.
Gerber.
And now there's even more people sort of trickling back in. Amtrak, BLT, Hank, Fuzz, Cushion. Yo, love these. I love all these guys, and I just was off the grid for a while. I was living with friars.
Yeah.
I was devoting thousands of hours to figuring out why my brain acts the way it does. And now that I'm back, they're all just so welcoming, and it's amazing.
Beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But on that note, on the opposite side, a certain someone who shall not be named was not too happy with some of the things that were said in the last episode. And this person who shall not be named, this person who shall not be named said they weren't mad, but then proceeded to just say and act very mad. One of those situations.
In their tonality or...
Yeah, well, this person who shall not be named, they definitely, they had some valid points, but a lot of the things that I exaggerated, like the thing about the Ray Finkel joke,
Yeah.
I also said I exaggerated, but this person who shall not be named also, focused on the negative things, which I understand. They also threw out there that it was my ego who was doing all that talking, and that's a very valid point, and it was a valid possibility. So I did really reflect on things and rewatched everything I said multiple times, and it's just that wasn't my ego. I can say with certainty it wasn't my ego. It was it was everything that I've discovered over the past several months of working on my own and working with counselors on all aspects of my life. But this person who shall not be named,
I feel like that's the person's name now.
I actually I feel like we should do let's she's Voldemort. We should actually
Voldemort?
Yeah, that's the bad guy from Harry Potter, and they don't want to say his name. They don't want to say his name. It's taboo, so they always refer to Voldemort as he who shall not be named, except Harry Potter, who is above and beyond that, and he doesn't want to sensationalize Voldemort. He wants to defeat him, and that's kind of, I don't want to defeat the person who shall not be named by any stretch of the imagination, but I actually think it's fucking hilarious to refer to this person as that. I just said the F word again, and I don't know why also the last episode I just could not stop saying fuck. I don't like to be a fuck guy,
Don't worry about it, you is.
Yeah, you is too. But yeah, today we are talking about routine, and my routine now doesn't really, this past weekend, we're recording this on the 4th of July weekend. Yeah. This actual episode I don't think will be out until August. But we have an annual family bash, family barbecue, and it's extended family, 2nd, 3rd, 4th cousins. It's a lot of people. And everybody there, all the men at least drink, and they can all drink in moderation. They all can drink responsibly, which is obviously something I could never do. So I just wasn't really I don't know if I want to go. And everyone understood. Nobody was come on, you got to go. But I was thinking about it, and it's the thing I always go back to. Well, alcohol's the one thing that's just socially accepted, and if you can't partake in it because it's literally a deadly circumstance for you, it's a deadly choice, you have to make an excuse. And I'm
you got to put yourself first.
Exactly. And it's the way I was thinking about it, it's if I was allergic to peanuts and my family was having a peanut butter and jelly party, would I go? Would I have fun going and possibly doing something that would kill me because I might get a whiff of a nut? You never know what phrases are going to come out on this podcast. It's you might get a whiff of a nut every now and then.
But that's important you identify stuff like that. I stay away from situations where I know there's going to be alcohol right now because I just don't want to fall back into that hole. So
Yeah.
you got to put yourself first sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, in recovery, I've been taught to always put yourself first.
Yeah. You always have to. And that's a mistake I made. Actually, last year, I started getting bad around early summer. And I remember I went to this family barbecue, and I started sneaking beers.
Yeah,
I
there you
started, and
go.
then it was like this. It's just how pathetic you have to be when you're an adult man and you have to sneak shit at a party. Like I remember, like I would go to the bathroom and I would check and scope it out like fucking Mission Impossible, and I would make sure the coast was clear, and I tiptoe over like the wily coyote. I like tiptoe to the fridge, look around, grab a beer, and I chug it in the bathroom, then hide it. So like that's the other thing. Like I wonder if like my cousins who owned the house that the party was at were like the next day they were just finding beer cans scattered throughout the property, like hidden under bushes and shit. Like it's insane
You
behavior.
said it was pathetic. I don't think it's pathetic. I think you had to go through those certain experiences
I
to
did.
become who you are now,
Yeah, no, I
which
absolutely
is
did.
a completely different person.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's actually the way you get through these things is you
Yeah.
have to remind yourself like that was who I was. This is who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so anyways, routine is unbelievably important.
Agreed.
It's unbelievably important. I mean, like for my, I often would have routines. Anytime I would sober up on my own for a couple months, I would fall into a routine, but then I would fall out of it. And when you don't have a routine, it's like I'm waking up and going to bed at all different hours. I'm not on like a consistent diet of what I eat. I don't have any structure in my day to day. My structure was like, all right, I'll get up and go to work, and that was it. And then everything else was a free for all.
Yeah, having that much time on your hands really gives you time to ruminate on your thoughts.
Yep. Yeah. It's just a brutal way to live, especially people who are have an inclination for alcoholism, addiction, or already have a pre-existing mental illness. You need routine.
Yeah, when I didn't have a routine, I that's how I slipped into alcoholism.
Yeah. That's when you
Um,
were out in LA, right? Like, and you.
yeah, I was out in LA. I was by myself. I was doing work, um, and I just fell into a bad spot. I just like I said, I didn't have a routine. It was funny because rewind, let's say 5, 6, 7 years ago, I used to get up, read 10 pages of the Wall Street Journal or 10 articles, then read my book, do work, and I would always keep myself busy.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the projects that I was working at that time all went away.
Yeah.
So I had all this time left on my hands, and I had no clue what to do with myself. And eventually, it led to the point where I turned to drinking
Yep.
because I felt like I didn't have a purpose anymore.
Yeah. No, that's what happens. Having a routine does give you purpose because you know you have these things you need to do. And like there's all sorts of routines out there that are sort of like overboard. I feel like they're like clickbait routines.
Yeah.
And these are the ones where it's like they wake up at 3 a.m. because 5 a.m. is not early enough. So they wake up at 3 a.m. and they eat like a weird ass breakfast of like a single raw green pepper with lemon water and a fucking smoked trout. And then they do this like crazy high intensity workout, and then they take a shower that alternates between scorching hot water and freezing cold water, and they do all this crazy ass shit. And like actually, I mean, it sounds preposterous, but if it works for them, it works. So it's like I can't really criticize it, but it's a little overboard. But like I really think the main emphasis of routine, and this is mine, is spiritual nourishment. It's like
What's that?
so it's like meditating, getting in touch with the universe in a way, or whatever higher power you hold. And it's really just focusing on what's inside you. So you're always going to have tasks that you have to do that are external. Like you have to take care of your fucking daily business with external tasks, business stuff, working out, which is all part of the routine. But I really like to focus on what's inside, up here and in here.
And when do you do that? Is that every morning?
I do it throughout the day. So I do wake up and I thank God, my higher power for waking me up. Then I read from some Stoic texts. I read from the AA meditation, daily meditation book, and I do sit there and I meditate. And depending on how busy my day is with like this type of stuff, work stuff, family activities, whatever it is, I'll meditate for 5 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, and I'll just focus on my breathing, and I'll think about all the negative thoughts I may run into. Um, Marcus Aurelius, who's one of my favorite human beings who's ever lived on this earth, who's one of the main Stoics, he said in one of his passages how like just know you're most likely going to encounter some people who are irritable, who are obnoxious, who are greedy. You're gonna come across these people throughout your day, but it shouldn't ruin your day. So I think about that.
Yeah, you control how you react.
Exactly. The one thing you can control is how you react and how you respond and how you think about things. Um, so yeah, I do that, and then throughout the day, I kind of make sure I check in. I check in with God. I check in with just how am I feeling, um, because you just have to. You have to just be aware. I check. I also try to really ground myself in the moment, in the present, before I start my day, and remember, like, hey, I got to. I know I have a lot of things to do today, but right now, I'm just standing right here and existing.
How do you stay in the present?
Honestly, the best
Is it
way.
work? Did you learn it in St. Christopher's or?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned it at St. Christopher's. They had daily meditation that was mandatory for 15 minutes
Oh,
every day in the chapel. I actually played piano at it a lot. It was awesome. Um, but so yeah, I mean that the Power of Now, which I know is a book you just bought. It's
yes,
an
I did.
incredibly helpful book. I mean, virtually every spiritual mentor, or self-help guru, or therapist, psychologist, sponsor from AA, they tell you need a routine and you need to focus on being in the present moment. It's the way out of most difficulties, just because so many difficulties are in your mind. Um, and then you also, you have to fill your routine with other stuff. Like, I mean, I work out consistently, daily workout. Read. Just don't even just. I mean, I read so much of this philosophical, spiritual stuff, but like read fiction, read something that'll entertain you. That's interesting and connect with people. A big thing they say in recovery is that every day you should speak with at least one person in recovery. So it's all about all that stuff. It's making connections, genuine connections with other people, and maintaining that genuine connection with your heart and soul. That's kind of what it comes
What
down to.
do you think purpose and routine, having a purpose and a routine go together?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's how I feel now. So much of my routine is based around what I'm doing now with this, with Mill P. Wrights, with the Demons Within novel, the podcast, the news hour. Um, and it is my purpose, it's my passion. And it makes my day so much more meaningful. And that's the other big part of the routine. The things that are part of your daily routine should be meaningful, even if it's a 10-second prayer to God for thanking Him to wake you up.
Yeah, I like that.
It's got to be meaningful. It's got to have different things that help manage stress effectively. And again, that's where meditation helps manage stress. Working out, doing a high intensity workout or some heavy resistance training. I mean, who doesn't feel good after you complete a workout?
Yeah.
You got the endorphins flowing. You might have a little pump. You might look in the mirror, do a little ab flex.
I
If you
got gut.
job, I actually the abs are coming in nice, just in time for summer when nobody sees me because I don't do anything except this.
Yeah, I'm trying to create a routine right now. I I'll be honest. I'm still trying to figure out what my purpose is. So, do you have any advice for me
Yeah.
on how to create a routine when you don't have a purpose, or when you're working on finding out what that purpose is? Because we see how passionate you are about Mill P Rice right now, and I feel like you're going to be a superstar. In fact, I know
Thank
it.
you.
So
Thank you.
you're working every day towards your purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do though. Like you work towards your purpose. As far as implementing like a steady, consistent routine, I do think it's like baby steps. You got to think about what your intentions are for your future, in a healthy way. Don't stress
Yeah.
about it. Don't be like, oh, I need to do this because that'll stress me out. Just be like, yo, this is my intentions for my life. You got to think about things you want and need and what's meaningful to you. Um, I mean, I think also besides like this goes hand in hand with the spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also like frame your day around gratitude. Just be thankful that you can do everything that you have an opportunity to do, that you have that opportunity because it could be taken from you at any moment. I mean, the spirituality too, I do think I should touch on the fact that I mean, most of my life when I would envision or hear about somebody who's like on a spiritual journey, I would think of like a monk or
Mm-hmm.
like Gandhi,
Mm-hmm.
like somebody who has no emotion and is constantly like oh type of crap like
Yeah.
that. And there certainly are people who are like that, and those people are awesome. Um, but that's not how I am.
Yeah.
I mean, look at if you watch the Mill P News Hour, that's like how I am. I just it's a little exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
But like the way I when I rant on that show, that's just like a slightly exaggerated version of how I can be at times, like at family dinners, or if me and you were just talking about current events. Like I am actually like that, and I consider myself a deeply spiritual person now. So I never want spirituality and the perception of what spirituality actually is to be a barrier for somebody who's trying to live this life and trying to pull themselves out of the darkness.
You said it's a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Like,
Well, that's because life in my, life is a series of moments. So life is a journey. And I don't think like I'm doing well in that aspect of my life, but I've not achieved like enlightenment. I actually don't think anybody's really achieves in full blown enlightenment except for like Buddha and Jesus.
enlightenment is what for the job, Pete, with the eighth grade delete?
Well, to me, that was the job sentence of all job sentences.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, enlightenment is just like you've literally reached the pinnacle of spirituality and nothing phases you. Nothing phases you ever. You've sort of transcended like human life. So it's like, I don't think it's really attainable, but it is a journey, and you're going to have days like any journey. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, and that goes for everything. I mean, and even me, and with this routine, you could have the tightest, like most nourishing and helpful and amazing routine ever, but you're still going to have days where you don't want to get out of bed. You're still going to have days where you want to keep the blinds drawn. You're still going to have days where you want to have your phone on silent. And those are the days where you just got to get up, because if you ask yourself like why do I need to get out of bed today? Like why do I have to do this work? Like what's better than just staying under the covers? The answer to those questions is always getting out of bed, because there's always work to do. Like you cannot squander the opportunity to live another day and waste that purpose and passion and the potential for doing good things. It's like you have to get out of there. You have to. It's like as soon as you open those curtains and the sun comes in, that should remind you like the sun does not discriminate on what it bathes its light in. The sun shines on everything that it can shine on. It leaves some things in shadow, but everything gets equal treatment from the sun. And every day it rises. Every day it spreads warmth. It gives energy. It gives light. That's what you need to be every day.
Could you touch on how you do the journaling?
Yeah, so my journals, so I do journal at night before bed. And I reflect on the day, and I just sort of...
You do it at night?
Yeah, I do it
at
about
night. That specific day?
Yep, and I always thank God too. I mean, the consistent theme here is checking in with my higher power. So I do at the end of every journal, I thank him for another day. But it really just comes down to like, I try to include gratitude. Like the other day, I think I was like, yeah, you did something. You've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes for us, and I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I was like, I'm grateful for the job Pete working his ass off around the clock.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, and then it's just anything. I mean, sometimes my journal will be like ruthlessly mean because I got to get it out. Like if something or somebody did affect me negatively and I allowed it in there, I allowed it, my brain got a little weak and I allowed something to really irritate me, I might just purge those negative emotions and those negative energies by just ruthlessly journaling. Like,
and that gets it out, that gets the anger out?
Generally speaking, it does. But a lot of times it's just the day to day, like a lot, and it's also like you can pat yourself on the back if if a potentially frustrating or negative situation arose in your day and you handled it well. Like write that down, because another interesting thing, actually, what I found now, because I've been journaling for a while, my favorite part of journaling is looking back at the journals from like 6 months ago, and sort of it's almost guaranteed, because this happens almost every time I do look back, that the things that I was like were potentially bothering me at the time, I just can't even believe that it was bothering me.
Why was it bothering you?
Yeah, I looked at one back when I was still with She Who Will Not Be Named, and she.
Can we make her name will not be named?
Yeah.
Okay.
But She Will Not Be Named. I mean, despite her obsession with CrossFit, she's not like Ray Finkel, but She Will Not Be Named was an accomplished CrossFit athlete. And I remember like she had one of these skills that was good that I couldn't do yet. And I was journaling about it. Like, it's okay, Greg, you're a man. It's okay if your girlfriend's better than you at one physical fitness thing. Like, you're not a pussy.
There's your
And
ego.
I know it was my ego. And I looked back and I literally laughed for an hour. I laughed for an hour when I read it, nonstop, like the Joker, like Heath Ledger. I was a maniac because that's how funny it was to me.
Yeah.
It's that funny that certain things, especially,
That probably helps you in the future, right? Because if you look back on things and you see that they didn't make you upset, when you're dealing with those problems in the future, does that make you look at them different?
oh yeah, it also just reminds me of why I live the way I live now, because like that specific journal entry was
Yeah.
from like 2 years ago. Before, I mean, but 2 years ago, I wasn't drinking at that time, but I was a dry drunk. My ego was out of control. I didn't even know what my ego was. None of the stuff I do now I knew. So I can actually laugh at stuff like that now. Not only because it's such a ridiculous thing to actually devote any thought to, really, but also because it's nice to know that nowadays stuff like that would never affect me negatively. If anything, like if I mean, I can tell you now, I probably will never date a woman who's very much into CrossFit because I've learned my lesson about I'm not into it enough to be able to do that. But like if that happened now, I'd be like super proud of my
Yeah.
girlfriend. I'd be like, "Yo, you're awesome at this," instead of like being all insecure like especially because it's like the one there like it's one specific thing that she did better than me, when every other thing in the gym I was like much stronger than she, who will not be named, or like any, because I'm a big guy. But whatever.
Yeah. One of the things about routine that has helped me the most since I quit drinking, and it sounds obvious, is sleep.
Yeah.
The quality of sleep I've gotten is so much better. And even this morning, if it's a weekend right now, I probably would have woken up hungover and not done a single thing. But this morning, as you know, I put together an email to a potential investor for a project that I'm working on that I think is going to go through.
Yeah.
So I'm able to accomplish more.
Well, I think too, like, because you, generally speaking, I would say you have to keep regular sleep hours. Like, you got to try to go to bed
Yeah, I
within an
don't.
hour
I
window.
don't.
You don't do that. But I think you still get good sleep, like you just said. As long as you're getting good sleep, like high quality, restful sleep, so you wake up and you feel energized, I don't think it's that big a problem if you're kind of like I've said many times, like sometimes I wake up and I get like this awesome email that I can tell too, like we're already working for like a couple hours that day already, and
Yeah.
then I look at the time and it's like a 3 a.m. email, and I'm always blown away by it.
I don't think it's healthy, but I got that from when I did have a good routine. I was going to bed around 7:30, getting up at 3:30,
Yeah.
making podcasts and doing things that were productive.
Yep. Well, another thing I like how you touched on, if like waking up hungover. I mean, nothing ruins like you could have the best routine ever too, and then if you're hungover, it's so hard to keep a routine. I mean, I obviously I don't drink anymore, but I was telling you earlier, the one thing that gives me like a hangover these days is when I overindulge with eating. And like yesterday, I didn't go to that barbecue, but I was already committed to having a cheat day, and I ate so much food. I ordered sushi. Who orders sushi on the 4th of July weekend? It's the
awesome.
least patriotic thing
That's
you can
awesome.
do. I ordered sushi and I ate that. Then I just like ate ice cream. And then I went downstairs and I looked in the freezer and I saw some brownies that were frozen from who knows what. And I took them out. I didn't even reheat it. I just ate it. It was like a frozen ice cream bar. It was mad good. Then I did get leftovers from the barbecue, and at like 9 o'clock at night, I ate a cheeseburger, a hot dog, and some like cheesy potatoes.
Yeah.
And then I went to bed like 20 minutes later, like an absolute psychopath. That's a psychopath
Get a little
move.
heartburn.
I had to sleep sitting up. I literally slept like sitting up at a 90-degree angle. And I woke up this morning and I felt,
You felt hungover.
yeah, the only thing I was missing from an actual hangover was I didn't have a headache, and I wasn't soaking with shame, remorse, and
Yes. I
guilt.
was going to say the shame.
I had no shame. And then, I mean, we started recording this podcast at about noon, and I've already taken like 4 or 5 craps today. So
You work out a lot.
I do.
I mean, how does that help?
Well,
I mean,
working.
it's an obvious question, but you do it in a way where I think a lot of people could learn a lot. The way you work out, the way you eat.
Yeah.
You
I
want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my workouts. I work out. I do like 4 to 5 hard workouts a week, and then every day I do something though. Some like my workout on Sundays is basically a day off. I work on like small body part muscles
Yeah.
that are like forearms and calves. That's just like for strictly aesthetic, strictly for looks. But like, I mean, it's working out.
What's
It
it do for you?
Well, it releases endorphins. It also like you expel so much energy. When you're done with the hard workout, you feel like you have a sense of accomplishment, especially on the days where it might be a little hard to get to the gym. I mean, my gym's in my basement, but I still, some days it's like, oh, I have so much to do, or I didn't sleep that well. But then when you do it, which I always do it, I have not missed a workout in a year.
Oh shit.
And maybe even longer. But after, once you pull yourself up and you go and do that workout, then you really have a sense of accomplishment after. So you have all the physiological aspects of making you feel better, and then you look better. I mean, if you can look in a mirror and every day you're like a little bit happier with how you look, I mean, it feels good. I mean, with that being said, too, you should always feel happy with how you look. I mean, you're given, but on the other side of that too, like you're given one body, you should take care of it.
Yeah.
But there's people who have like food addictions, and I've always thought food addictions are underrated in the mainstream
Why?
because, I mean, you think about like alcohol or coke or gambling, even
Yeah.
you just stop doing that shit. I mean, I'm making it sound super easy, but like you don't need those things to survive. You don't need alcohol to survive. You don't need coke to survive. You don't need heroin to survive. You don't have to gamble to survive. So part of your recovery is just abstaining from those things completely.
Mm-hmm.
But you literally need food to survive. So you're addicted to food, but you still have to eat enough calories a day so you don't die from starvation. So like imagine if alcohol was something your body needed to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine if your body needed 1 or 2 beers a day to survive. As an alcoholic, if I have 1 beer, I'm likely to have 100. So it's like it's food addiction's crazy. Um, I mean, it has nothing to do with routine, but I do think it's interesting, and I think it needs to be talked about a little more, um, because people who have food addictions, they have low life expectancies if they don't take it into consideration. 'Cause,
And having a food addiction, there's always an underlying cause, right? Do you think?
yeah, it's like anything. I mean, I learned psychopharmacology classes I took when I was
What?
at UMass Boston, and it's all like pretty much the same sections of the brain. It's all the same, like the same neurons and the same thought patterns, the same negative feedback loops for addiction. It's pretty much all on the same part of your brain,
Yeah.
and it's an underlying issue. It's you're coping with something, you're just trying to make yourself feel better
Mm-hmm.
with something instead of addressing the problem directly. And that's a big issue with everything.
Tell me how you address the problem directly.
Well, you do all the things we're doing. I mean, I don't have any experience with it. I mean, we're talking about food addiction now, but addiction in general, the way you deal with it is what we're doing. You make a routine, you ask for help. Asking for help, having a routine,
I
that's
think
what
asking for
matters.
help
That's number
is a
one.
big one, knowing you can't do it on your own.
Yeah, no, it's definitely number one.
Not having a routine caused me to hit my rock bottom. It left way too much time on my hands. I started drinking, and it went downhill. So not having a routine created chaos in my head. It always left me scrambling on what to do. It was like riding on a ship and not knowing where that ship's going or not having an end destination point, and you're just going somewhere, but you have no clue where you're going. And it made me feel worthless
Yeah.
and hopeless.
Yep. I think for you too, the way like your career, because you're your own boss, so you really that makes you have sort of more work that you have to do to even implement a routine. Because from the average person,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
big part of the routine is going to work. It's like, all right, I do my morning rituals, and then I'm for 8 hours a day, I'm at the office. That's a huge part of your routine. But for you, it's like you're doing everything on your own. You're making contacts, you're going to meetings, you're raising funds, you're doing all this shit all on your own time, and you're your own boss. So like you have like 8 extra hours a day that you have to think of a routine.
Yeah, but the point I want to get really across is that not having routine made me an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I was an alcoholic before that, but it led to depression. It led to some other things that I don't want to talk about. But starting to get that routine back, a little by little every day, is bringing my happiness back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what happens. And once it's like
So I would say anyone that's going through addiction, like you say, just small steps.
baby steps. Yeah, it's all about baby steps. It's all about steps. And someday, you're gonna look back on that first baby step you took, and it's gonna end up being the biggest step you ever took in your whole life.
What's like compounded interest?
Oh, yes, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, it
if
is.
You're taking baby steps every day,
Mm-hmm.
that adds up.
Yeah, it's like
shit doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Well, and you got to take baby steps until you find your stride. I mean, it doesn't matter how many steps it takes as long as you get to the place you're meant to go.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this in the paper too. Is it's self-care.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be a part of your routine.
Yeah.
Because of my past, I'm consistently putting myself down.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the cornerstone. Yeah.
Well, that was a good episode, guys. Episode 7, the importance of routine. Greg, anything else you want to add?
Well, just the normal house cleaning stuff, which is cleaning your house should also be a part of your routine. You want to have a nice, clean living area. But, this Demons Within podcast drops every Sunday, so look out for the next episode. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but it's going to be good. Mill P writes News Hour on Wednesdays. Got some other video essay type things in the works. And, of course, Demons Within. By
September 19th.
September 19th, hardcover, paperback, ebook. I've been getting a request for an audiobook. Is that what you were going to say?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Apparently people like my voice. You know that? Do you ever see Private Parts where Howard Stern gives the girl an orgasm when she's sitting on the speaker?
Yeah.
Ladies, greg.miller@millpwrites.com. Hit me up. I got you.
And a lot of people have been asking where they're going to purchase the book. It's going to be on Amazon, right?
To start, it's going to be on Amazon. That's a certainty. September 19th on Amazon. But yeah, so, we're a company. I'm a company now. Like Mill P Writes is a company. It's essentially a content publishing company. So at some point, the book's going to be in all bookstores. I just don't know if that's going to be through Mill P Writes or if we're going to have to, partner with a large publisher. But September 19th, guaranteed on Amazon. Probably also on like Nook, which is the Barnes & Noble like version of a Kindle, of an e-reader. I will have it on that too. And then, the rest we'll see. We're going to have a ton of copies. If you know us personally, reach out and, we'll be able to sell you a copy. And if you're my mom, I'll give you one for free. But besides that, it's like, yeah, and Peter's mom too. Shout out Kathy.
That's a wrap.
Peace out.